Arab nations, Libya uses its oil as a political weapon more than any other. And on April 1st, that nation will cut its production by almost 20%. In this case, the cut ordered by Libya's dictator, Muammar Gaddafi, may be more economic than political. Libyan oil, high-priced and high-quality, is for the moment in oversupply. That could change quickly. What won't change quickly is the fact that Gaddafi's Libyan oil fields are the world's 9th largest producer and account for about 8% of America's imported oil. So Libya's Gaddafi is a man to be reckoned with.
If you had to describe the public perception of Gaddafi by his people, you might think guru. He has the right combination in his face. A strong and asymmetric handsomeness, like the anti-hero movie stars of the 60s and 70s, along with a persistent withdrawal or contemplation in the eyes, an implied asceticism. He usually gives the impression of being quieter than those around him, especially when the people around him are revolutionary committees, an elite, almost a group of commissars who keep track of the purity of the revolution, his revolution. He holds no public office. Gurus don't have to. Perhaps he sees himself as a combination of Gandhi and Mao Zedong. The Gandhi part is his contention that government and political parties are just ways to cheat people. Government, he says, will wither away, and committees of the people will decide on what is best for them. His role? He is a teacher. Like Mao Zedong, he has compiled his thinking into a green book. Actually, a green book parts 1, 2, and 3. It is the third universal theory, a blending of the Koran and Gaddafi's own brooding thoughts. The result is something the Libyans call the Jamahiriya, the state of the masses. So far, the Jamahiriya is mostly an extension of Gaddafi's will, an attempt to reshape the Libyan consciousness in the form of his vision. His vision is one thing. This is the reality. 2,500 tanks, Russian-built and accompanied by 5,000 to 6,000 Russian advisors. Gaddafi has spread arms and training money to rebel groups in many African countries. To this parade, on the 10th anniversary of his bloodless coup d'etat, September 1st, 1969, Gaddafi invited Syria's Assad, Jordan's Hussein, and Yasser Arafat, even though soon after, he withdrew Libya's large subsidy to Arafat's Al-Fatah, the most moderate element of the PLO. The most prominent American guest was Billy Carter, who worked briefly for Libya as a consultant. His military equipment, billions of dollars worth, was there, more than Libya has trained people to operate. Even some of their jet fighters, which we could not photograph, are flown by North Koreans. Libya is Mediterranean rather than African. It is surrounded by poorer, more conventional Arab neighbors, Algeria, Tunisia, Sadat's Egypt, which Gaddafi considers an enemy. It is 99% sand, not arable in its natural state, except the strip along the sea. For its 2.5 million people, it is huge. You could fit 3 states of Texas inside its borders. To find Gaddafi, if you have been invited to see him, you may have to go out into the fields beyond Benghazi, to where he prays outside a tent sort of like those of his Bedouin ancestors, where, you are told, he likes to go to keep away from the corruption of cities and to be in touch with his spiritual roots. In the tent, you hear in his gentle voice the most vicious position on Israel, for instance, of any Arab leader. Any Jew who came to Palestine since 1948, he says, must go away.
This is only the way for peace, and without this, the war is a compulsory solution in this area.
There's no compromise on this.
I don't think so.
I believe that Libya issued a statement disapproving in general of the taking of hostages in an embassy, but you support the Iranians otherwise. If you were President Carter, what would you do about the hostage situation?
I consider the behavior of President Carter is good because he controlled himself. But I am against the concentrating the American fleets and armies around Iran. We consider it as if America declared the war against Iran silently. And from this side, I see the situation is serious. But you must be sure if any aggression takes place in future against Iran, we will be a part of this war.
Gaddafi's fierceness has been so far mostly verbal. But the equipment to fight such a war is still arriving at the docks of Benghazi. We were not invited to photograph this ominous cargo, but we established they were Russian-built ground-to-ground missiles. To us, the Libyans preferred to emphasize other aspects of their prosperity.
Libya, say the pamphlets of the Department of Information, is booming, and it is. The oil money is fueling heavy activity in commerce, in housing, in industrialization. A better life for people who just 25 years ago were listed as the poorest in the world. A disproportionate share may be going for arms, but the ordinary citizen is seeing a lot of it too.
There is practically no unemployment in Libya, and while imported goods are expensive, Libyan wages are 5 to 10 times as high for similar jobs as in Malta or Egypt, which explains why Libya has no difficulty in importing 1 million foreign workers, Maltese, Egyptian, Palestinian. This is a new idea of Gaddafi's, modern supermarkets. He hopes they will replace the ancient tangled bazaars. To help, these government-owned and subsidized stores are, on an average, 40% cheaper than the bazaar shops in old Tripoli. The most omnipresent feature of Libyan urban geography is Gaddafi. His portraits are everywhere. Another layer in the long and complex culture of Libya that begins with statues the Romans left behind. This kind of thing never moves evenly. Gaddafi says every Libyan is entitled to a car, and all day long you get the feeling they already all have one. And they are ordering more, in spite of the fact that cars in Libya cost about twice what they do most places. These cars are a symbol of progress, maybe. In any event, no one rides a camel anymore. Another radical plank in Gaddafi's philosophy is that every Libyan is entitled to a house, but no Libyan is entitled to more than one. The government will help you to buy your home if you have been a renter, or will build you one if you never had one. It's great for the construction industry. This apartment project was designed and built by Italians. When Gaddafi took power, he threw out 60,000 Italians who had stayed on after the former colony became independent. Some of them have since been hired back as contract workers. The money flows like a light all-weather oil. This hospital, for instance, more modern than many in Western Europe or America. There's free medical service for all. And $250 million for Tripoli's International Airport, also designed and built by Italians. No stinting anywhere. Gaddafi provides practically unlimited money for education. This university, built by the British, is in the second city, Benghazi. The country's street signs and all advertisements are in Arabic, but a large part of the university curriculum is taught in English. Arabic texts are not yet available. Have all these social reforms and development programs made Gaddafi loved by all Libyans? No, there are many anti-Gaddafi Libyans, but most are outside Libya in a resistance movement against him. They told us Gaddafi was a military dictator who takes away the people's freedom and confiscates private property. That while he shows off his humble life in a desert tent, he does not show us his 4 villas and his multi-million-dollar yacht. The dissidents say he also does not live a true Islamic life. He violates the Quran by killing his opponents. They also say when the oil runs out, Libya will return to the poverty of the early 50s, without even any significant upgrading of its agriculture. We found evidence the dissidents are wrong in the case of agriculture. We went to the province of Fezzan, in the heart of the Sahara, 1,000 miles south of Tripoli. Here, while attending high school, Gaddafi began to dream and plan his revolution. We found a farmer who may not be typical, but is certainly happy. His local People's Committee helped him get 12.5 acres and water. His obligation? To do a good job of farming. On that condition, he can keep his profits. With the farm as a grant goes a house, a car, camels for milk and meat. He also gets a tractor, and for a while, a yearly salary. Understandably, he supports the Gaddafi revolution. The American presence used to be big jets at Wheelus Air Force Base. In 1970, Gaddafi threw them out. But now there is a kind of truce, a marriage of convenience. These are American pilots, hired on contract to fly crop dusters.
They're going to be moved.
Like many other Americans, they aren't very happy in Libya, with restrictions on their movements and the absence of alcohol. But they are there, not flying military missions, but buzzing the oat and barley fields. And the oil business, the source of Gaddafi's wealth and his arms and his influence, has still a definite American complexion at management levels and foreign workers at all levels. Libya was the first to increase oil prices. The first to get American companies to give the host nation a larger share of profits. Gaddafi was the first to use oil as a weapon and a threat. In spite of all that, the Americans who helped Libya find and develop its oil are still there. The boss of this concession is Charles Douglas of Occidental Petroleum, who is very candid about why the two nationalities need each other.
The money is good, and that's the name of the game, whether we like it or not, is money.
But the game has turned ugly. This is the American embassy in Tripoli, burned out in the wave of violence that hit the Muslim world after the Iranians seized the embassy and hostages in Tehran. Gaddafi did little to prevent the troubles in Tripoli. This symbolizes his ambivalence toward the United States. He resents the embargo that keeps him from getting American military-related equipment. Gaddafi says we have put Libya on a blacklist, and he constantly threatens to turn off the oil.
This good policy towards America will not be permanent and will not go longer if America still acts against us as enemy and put us in the blacklist.
It might affect Libya's willingness to sell oil to the United States?
Yes, of course.
Like a prince out of the Arabian Nights, Gaddafi rides off, leaving behind the question, at what point can the United States afford to antagonize any man who sits on top of that much oil?